Everyone, welcome back to the Inside Podcast. I'm your host Seth, the CMO at Site, joined by my co-host Mike, the CEO at Site. Today we are talking about one of the most asked questions by clients, how to spy on your competitors. Today we're going to go in depth and give you a step-by-step guide on how you can actually see what your competitors are doing and how you can copy and improve on what they're doing. Let's dive in. Hi Mikey.
Setela, hello. Good to see you again.
So good to see you too. So Mike is in Greece. So if you do see people walking behind him looking like they're going to go to the pool, it's because he is in the hotel lobby. So
I've got a big audience here, Setela. If I could turn my computer around, you'd see, sure, there must be 20 or 30 tables.
I think you should do a little spin. Do a quick little spin.
No.
Just a quick one.
No. I'm in such a good position with my computer. It's going to derail everything.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right, great. Yeah, Mikey, I guess the quickest way to dive into this is, how do I spy on my competitors?
So a great question, and there's lots of cool ways. And the reason we know this is it's probably the most, even if it's not the most explicitly asked question by customers, it's definitely the most, it's like the biggest bugbear on their mind. It's a bizarre thing. I think there's something interesting to it, but more than one's own revenue, people often focus on, well, what are their competitors doing and what is their revenue and so on. So it's interesting. I'll tell you a quick story. I think it's a true story. Someone told me the story. I believe it's true, unless they were lying to me. But it goes like this. They spoke. It's an old story. They said happened to them many years ago. There were two stores across the street from each other. They were like spaza stores or supermarket stores, and they were always in big competition with each other. And the one was selling Coke, like the standard price for a 6-pack of Coke was $60. So they were both selling Coke for $60. And now they started to get competitive. So the one says, cool, I'm going to drop my price to $55. And lo and behold, the competitor across the street, let's call him number B, he said, okay, if you're going to drop it to 65, I'm going to drop it to 64. And this continued and continued. Eventually the person, let's say number A, drop it to $40. And the person number B said, cool, I'm going to keep going to $39. Eventually, their cost was about $35, their actual own cost for this Coke. And store A said, I'm actually going to put this guy out of business. I'm going to drop it to $25 below cost. Right? Lo and behold, the next day, his neighbor dropped it to $24. And he couldn't understand what was going on. How is this guy doing, like basically losing money? Because he's losing money. And this continued and continued. And eventually, it's a long spiel, I know this, but eventually they got to the point. He asked number B, store B, how are you doing this? I'm losing, $10 every day, every Coke or every 6-pack of Coke I sell. How are you keeping up with me? He says, simple. All I'm doing is I'm buying the Coke from you and losing R1 every time I sell it. And I think that's like the moral is so hectic, but it's so true. I've seen this in Google Ads when guys go head on head for keywords that cannot be profitable. But they need to beat their competitor, and thinking their competitor has figured all these secrets out, and they're obviously making money. And most of the time one can be assured that competitors are not living in their ROAS daily. They haven't measured everything to the cent, and watching and living in competitors is a fool's errand. But having said that, there are some valuable insights or nuggets one can gain from understanding what your competitors are doing, but don't live in that space. Don't follow it too closely. And today, we'll understand how to pick up all those things.
Awesome. So there are a few different ways to actually spy on your competitors. Probably the easiest way to see exactly what they're doing is to follow their pages, see what they're doing on Google by just searching what they're doing. That's like the simplest way to do it. One step further than that, which I'd say is actually not even that much more complicated to do, is just to go on the Transparency Center for all of these platforms. LinkedIn Transparency, Google Transparency Center, Facebook, TikTok, all of these platforms, I think it is a standard and it is a practice that they have to follow, that they have to have a transparency center for all of their ads. So they're showing all of that. What's one step further? I know we actually do have a masterclass on this. It is on our YouTube as well. So we will go through a few of the stuff that we've spoken about there, but there'll also be a few other nuggets in here. What's one step further or more complicated than that, Mikey?
So I think that's a great point. A great starting point that you raised. I think let's drop those like links below. But as you said,
Yeah.
every paid platform has a transparency center where you can actually just put your competitor's URL or Facebook page or TikTok page, and we'll show you all the ads they're running. It used to actually be better. It used to show you even spend per ad. Now it just shows you what ads. So it's very useful for insights, like for creative
Yeah.
insights and ideas. I think going to one step further, probably the most common tool people use, if they do use a tool, is SimilarWeb. SimilarWeb's great for um, traffic reporting, and it's extremely accurate. So if you just go to SimilarWeb and you put in your competitor's URL, to give you a traffic, it spit out like traffic numbers, so how much traffic they're getting to the site, and it will also give you a breakdown of that traffic. So it'll show you what is the source of the traffic, whether it's social, Google, and so on and so on. Um, some people come down the pool, which is cool. Um, Other than that, I think the other like free platforms that exist, Google Ads is great.
Yeah.
Google Ads gives you a lot of insights into what guys are doing.
Into on Google Ads there, just go into your keyword planner and you can actually drop the website of your competitor and you can see which site what their site ranks for, both from a paid perspective, like what they're actually bidding on. Obviously you'll see like a general amount of what it costs to actually bid on that keyword, but then you'll also see what they're trying to push from a organic point of view as well, from like your organic SEO, because then you can also see what they're doing. So ultimately it's like a little sneaky way, which is free if you're running Google Ads, or just have access to the platform to go and see what your competitors are doing. Same on Bing as well, any search engine really.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think one other feature in Google Ads, which is cool, is you have to be running ads to see this, but to live in your auction insights. So all these platforms, they give like aggregate data and sometimes accurate data, but not live data. Auction Insights gives as close to as possible as real data. So the most important insights you can get from Auction Insights is your impression share. So how much of the search out there you're capturing, and then obviously how much of the search out there your competitors are capturing, and then also top of page rates to understand like what your bid amount is compared to theirs and so on. And from that you can get quite a good idea how much someone's actually spending on Google Ads. That's probably the most accurate way to
Yeah.
understand how much someone's spending on Google Ads, assuming they're a close competitor and assuming you have a good overlap of close keywords.
Otherwise, even further than that is your other technique, Mikey, where you use ChatGPT but that will be linked in the video. But maybe you want to give a brief overview of how you go about actually calculating how much an e-commerce store is making, and how you do that.
Sure. So in the video, what I go through, but I'll just kind of save people the time from watching their video. There's I think three important parts to understand one's competitors. So one is to understand what they're doing, and that's really what we explain from the transparency centers. Second thing is to understand how much they're spending, and that you can do pretty much from Google side, like the Google Ad side. And third part, which is probably the most interesting part, is to try and identify or understand how much your competitors are actually making online if they have an e-commerce store. And just kind of give a quick summary what I go through in the video. It essentially uses SimilarWeb's traffic data. But now that you understand how much traffic they're getting and the source of their traffic, you need to apply conversion rates to get your final revenue numbers. And then it essentially takes conversion rates depending on which traffic source they're getting and kind of spits out a final assumed revenue number that your competitors are making. And that's always quite nice to know. For another reason, it's quite interesting.
Interesting. So then how do we then, as the e-commerce store owner and the other marketers that are listening to this, how do you then take all of the insights from this and, how do you not live and be that second person from the Coke story? How do you take this information and then actually apply it in a way that's going to be proactive towards growing your business rather than the downfall, because you're paying so much attention to what they're doing that you actually just don't know what you're doing?
Yeah. I think that sums it up, the challenge. So I think what's valuable and what's not valuable. So the part that's valuable is to use these tools to get almost an under the hood view in terms of what they're running. Once you know what they're running, one can assume that perhaps they're working, but definitely perhaps they're not working. But let's say these channels are perhaps working, and you can understand how much they're spending on those channels. And then what I would suggest is take that with a pinch of salt and experiment just using that as the idea. So for example, let's say you're running Google and Facebook only, and that's what you've always run. And you use these tools out there and you see that your biggest competitors are also running TikTok and Twitter or X. Now you'd say, oh, wow, that's an idea. I didn't think it would work for me, but they're running it. So let me try experiment on my side. And then I would literally take that data and try run those channels at a low budget and see if they work for you. I wouldn't take for granted that they're working for them, but I would take it as a push to say, wow, these channels, they're running, I'm not running, let me give them a try.
Hmm.
Lastly, or likewise, on the traffic channels that you are running, so let's say you're running Google, they're running Google, but they're spending, and you can see from these spying tools, 20 times or 30 times what you're spending. I think it's just a case to deep dive and analyze, are you getting the best results that you could be getting? Is there another reason that you haven't scaled up to now? And if
Yeah.
there's no reason, or if you find, oh wow, maybe this is interesting. If they're spending so much money, there is a potential. Maybe I'm not capturing all the search that's out there, or maybe I haven't maximized it properly. Then it's a case to obviously expand. But I really think it's more push than a dictation or a command. It's really an idea. It should spurt ideas,
Yeah.
not direction.
Yeah. And what's great is that you can actually see exactly what they've done. So you can say, okay, either I'm going to go and replicate this with my own touch and feel, or I can go a totally different direction. Just having these insights makes or just helps you make a more informed decision. But then this kind of raises the next question of, do I then also then go and compete against my competitors head on, as a branded, am I going to go after their branded search? Is that a good use of my money, or should I rather protect mine, obviously, and then rather go after all those other transactional terms? Is there value in competing there in branded search on
That's a
the?
great topic in itself. The branded search. Should you bet on your own brand, and should you bet
Yeah,
on a competitor's brand? So I would say this. There are some companies who have obviously done extremely well by bidding on the incumbent's brand name. I
yeah,
think if there isn't a recognized global power player in your space, I would probably say it's not worth it. So, for
yeah,
example, let's say you're an email software, and everyone knows Mailchimp is it's an email software, so there's a fortune of search for that, but they probably don't have any tie-in or a real brand reason they're going for it, except that they've heard of it. I think trying to bid on that brand name or try and bid on that like heavy, big incumbent brand makes sense. If
yeah,
you're a local business, I'm yet to see an extremely successful campaign where someone's trying to poach that brand. If people kind of know a brand that's out there, they usually have some, and I'm really talking about local brands here, they usually have some reason or some brand pool that's putting them there, and seldom your brand play is going to actually snap that user. I think often what you'll see is you'll get clicks just because many people aren't reading and they'll come to you by mistake.
yeah,
And you may even get leads from that. And I've seen people obviously get leads from that, but seldom have I seen those leads convert. So
yeah.
I don't think it's
And I
actually
think
an
the
effective way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the big reason that people aren't getting those leads right there is that because it's so small and people know exactly who they're, especially from a search perspective, who they're searching for, there's a reason they're searching for that person. They don't want
Yes.
you. It's
Yeah.
hard to admit. It's hard to like take that head
Exactly.
on. They don't
Yeah.
want you,
Yeah.
but they don't want you. They want them for a reason.
Yeah.
So should you even bid on your own brand name? Should like as a local
You,
small business, should I bid on my own, or should I rather try and let my SEO efforts take over there?
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. I think for the same reason, it probably most brands can get away for not bidding on their own brand name. Having said that, um, I think it's always worth like taking a punt. It's not so much a punt, but taking um, a gander at a small spend just to kind of protect your brand there, just
Yeah,
in case you lose out on that one searcher that is going to come here and is going to come to a competitor site, not realizing they're on their competitor site and actually convert. So it's almost contradictory advice there, but I
yeah,
think for the most part, it's so cheap to bid on your own brand name that it makes
yeah.
sense.
Just there to determine whether you should, as well, to bid on your brand name. Go and actually see if someone else is bidding on it already.
Yeah,
So many people actually don't know that people are bidding on their brand names because they just haven't gone and looked.
yeah,
If someone's bidding, then
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
protect that with all your heart and soul. If
yeah.
not, then maybe you don't need it.
Yeah. I'll tell you the one case where you absolutely have to bid on your own brand name is when it's almost like a non-negotiable. It's the first thing you should do is when you are selling a product that's not only yours or it's sold elsewhere. So even if it's
Yeah,
being sold on Takealot and so on, because you do get people that search for you, unknowingly click on someone else's ad potentially, and now they're going to buy the product which is available there as well as at your store. And you obviously don't want that to happen. So if you're selling a product which is not proprietarily your brand, I think you absolutely have to put on your own brand. I think it's important. For me, competitor research is for inspiration and ideas only. It's not the North Star, like it's not your guide. And I think there's value, but it's not everything.
I think some of the biggest value that you can bring from a competitor research perspective, like say when we're doing our own SEO, for example, and we want to see where we're bidding against someone else, that's when it's valuable to do competitor research. Because then you want to see where you're ranking now and where I'm ranking in 2 months, 4 months, and 1 year, and so on and so forth, to see if you're actually making a difference. And I think that's the only reason to really go and really do in-depth competitor research.
That is a great point. Like the ugly stepchild, which is SEO, which shouldn't be the ugly stepchild because it's such an important part, which is we almost never touch on it. But I would say the one place to live in competitor research and spying is in SEO. Because it's a competitive landscape, and that's who you're trying to overcome. It's either you or someone else that's going to be in that position for that search. So the one medium which does require, I would say, like that being your primary method is SEO. But for all other paids, use as inspiration only.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Insight Podcast. We're going to have all of the stuff that we spoke about linked down below. We did a whole YouTube video on how to spy on your competitors, and Mike went really in depth on the actual application on how to actually spy on them. So use that down below. And remember, spying on your competitors does give you really good insights on what they're doing. But please don't fall into the trap of actually getting engulfed with it, that you actually don't pay attention to what's happening in your own business. I've seen that happen time and time again, so please don't make that mistake. And I hope this episode gave you some tips, and I hope you found it insightful. That's it for this week. I'll see you next week.